Killed by a scam. A father took his life after losing his savings to international criminal gangs. He's not the only one. NN. Sitting at the kitchen table, Matt struggles to recount the events of the past few months. As soon as I found out that it was a suicide, I was 100% sure that it was the scam, he says. Our father was, from the day I was born until 6 months ago, always a positive, happy person. This was literally the only thing in his life that had happened, to where it changed him, and it just crushed him. On a horse farm in Northern Virginia, surrounded by sprawling fields and stables, the family gathers at their younger sister Adrianne's house, something they've done a lot in the 3 months since their father took his own life after falling victim to a so-called pig butchering scam. The scams, mostly run out of Southeast Asia, are given that name because they involve fattening up victims before taking everything they have. The con artists behind them take on false online identities and spend months financially grooming their victims to get them to invest on fraudulent cryptocurrency websites. Dennis Jones, an avid runner and photographer, was adored by his children and grandchildren. Described as a bit of an activist by his family, the 82-year-old spent much of his retirement working with refugees and debating politics online. But in the last few months of his life, he withdrew from his family and, having been divorced for years, befriended a woman going by the name Jessie on Facebook. The two had been talking online for months and built a close relationship. Eventually, Jessie convinced Dennis to invest in crypto. Dennis complied. Without ever meeting Jessie in person, he spent everything he had, and when he had nothing left, she demanded more. Until one day the money disappeared, leaving him in ruin. In early March, Dennis' children scheduled a meeting to help their father get back on his feet after the scam. The plan was for him to move in with Adrianne and her family. We wanted him to know that he was going to be taken care of, Matt said. But the morning of the meeting, none of them could reach Dennis. Matt drove to Dennis's apartment, but he wasn't home, and all calls went straight to voicemail. They figured he must be out on one of his long runs. An hour later, police knocked on Matt's door to inform him that Dennis had taken his own life. Dennis was one of countless victims of a massive global criminal operation predominantly run by Chinese gangs who have built a multi-billion-dollar scam industry in Southeast Asia. There, they've assembled an army of scammers. Many held against their will in guarded compounds and forced to con people all around the world out of their life savings. It's theft at a scale so large that investigators are now calling it a mass transfer of wealth from middle-class Americans to criminal gangs. Last year, the FBI estimates pig butchering scams stole nearly $4 billion from tens of thousands of American victims, a 53% increase from the year before. While the crime takes place online, its real-world consequences are devastating. Law enforcement sources predict that losses will continue to grow in the next year, and as the criminals remain out of reach, money and lives will continue to be lost.